की जाए, नवद्वीप धाम की जाए, जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जाए, गंगा माई की जाए, यमुना माई की जाए, तुलसी देवी की जाए, भक्ति देवी की जाए, Samavita Bhaktarinda ki jai. Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the Sum devotees. All glories to the Sum devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the Sum devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Actually, can't get the bug down. Sorry. I thought I needed it, but I want it. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 1, text number 45. Tasya Prapanna Kila Lokapanam Avastitanam Anushasane Sve Arthaya Jatasya Yadushva Ajasya Vartam Sakhe Kirtaya Tirtha Kirtehe. Okay, now we need the verse. Okay. Tasya prapanna kila lokapanam avastitanam anushasane sve artaya jatasya yadushvajasya vartam sakhe kirtaya tirtha kirtehe. Tasya prapanna kila lokapanam avastitanam anushasane sve artaya jatasya yadushvajasya vartam sakhe kirtaya tirtha kirtehe. Tasya prapanna kila lokapanam avastitanam anushasane sve artaya jatasya yadushvajasya vartam sakhe kirtaya tirtha kirtehe. Please repeat.
Tasya prapanna kila lokapanam avasthitanam anushasane sve arthaya jatasya yajusvajasya vartam sakhe kirtaya tirtha kirtehe.
Tasya prapanna kila lokapanam avasthitanam anushasane sve arthaya jatasya yadushvajasya vartam sakhe kirtaya tirtha kirtehe.
Tasya prapanna kila lokapanam avastitanam anushasane sve arthaya jatasya yadushvajasya vartam sakhe kirtaya tirtha kirtehe.
तस्य प्रपन्नाखिललोकपानाम् अवस्थितानाम् अनुशासने स्वे अर्थाय जातस्य यदुष्वजस्य वार्तां सखे कीर्तय तीर्थकीर्ते
तस्य प्रपन्नाखिललोकपानाम् अवस्थितानाम् अनुशासने स्वे जातस्य यदुष्वजस्य वार्तां सखे कीर्तय तीर्थकीर्ते
Mataji's?
तस्य प्रपन्नाखिललोकपानाम् अवस्थितानाम् अनुशासने स्वे अर्थाय जातस्य यदुष्वजस्य वार्तां सखे कीर्तय तीर्थकीर्ते तस्य प्रपन्नाखिललोकपानाम् अवस्थितानाम् अनुशासने स्वे अर्थाय जातस्य यदुष्वजस्य वार्तां सखे कीर्तय तीर्थकीर्ते तस्य प्रपन्नाखिललोकपानाम् अवस्थितानाम् अनुशासने स्वे अर्थाय जातस्य यदुष्वजस्य वार्तां सखे कीर्तय तीर्थकीर्ते तस्य प्रपन्नाखिललोकपानाम् अवस्थितानाम् अनुशासने स्वे अर्थाय जातस्य यदुष्वजस्य वार्तां सखे कीर्तय तीर्थकीर्ते
Tasya, his, prapanna, surrendered. Akila lokapanam, all rulers of the entire universe. Avastitanam, situated in. Anushasane, under the control of. Sve, own self. Artaya, for the interest of. Jatasya, of the born. Yadushu, in the family of the Yadus. Ajasya, of the unborn. Vartam, topics. Sakhe, O my friend. Kirtaya, please narrate. Tirtakirtehe, of the Lord, whose glories are chanted in the places of pilgrimage. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. O my friend, please, therefore, chant the glories of the Lord, who is meant to be glorified in the places of pilgrimage. He is unborn, and yet he appears by his causeless mercy upon the surrendered rulers of all parts of the universe. Only for their interest did he appear in the family of his unalloyed devotees, the Yadus. There are innumerable rulers all over the universe in different varieties of planets. The sun god in the sun planet, the moon god in the moon planet, Indra in the heavenly planet, Vayu, Varuna, and those in the Brahmaloka planet, where Lord of Brahma is living. All are obedient servants of the Lord. Whenever there is any trouble in the administration of the innumerable planets in the different universes, the rulers pray for an appearance, and the Lord appears. The Bhagavatam has already confirmed this in the following verse, Eti chamsha kalah pumsa Krishnas tu Bhagavan Swayam Indrari Vyakulam Lokam Mridayanti Yuge Yuge. And every millennium, whenever there is any trouble for the obedient rulers, the Lord appears. He also appears for the sake of his pure, unalloyed devotees. The surrendered rulers and the pure devotees are always strictly under the control of the Lord, and they are never disobedient to the desires of the Lord. The Lord is therefore always attentive to them. The purpose of pilgrimages is to remember the Lord constantly, and therefore the Lord is known as Tirtha Kirti. The purpose of going to a place of pilgrimage is to get the chance to glorify the Lord. Even today, for example, although times have changed, there are still pilgrimage sites in India. For example, in Mathura and Vrindavan, where we had a chance to stay, people are awake from early in the morning at 4 a.m. up until nighttime and are constantly engaged some way or other in chanting the holy glories of the Lord. The beauty of such a pilgrimage site is that automatically one remembers the holy glories of the Lord. His name, fame, quality, form, pastimes, and entourage are all identical to the Lord, and therefore chanting the glories of the Lord invokes the personal presence of the Lord. Anytime or anywhere pure devotees meet and chant the glories of the Lord is present without a doubt. It is said by the Lord himself that he always stays where his pure devotees chant his glories. Thus, in the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 3rd canto, 1st chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Questions by Vidura. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gananjanashalakya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Buddhali Swayam Rupakada Mayam Tedati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Tatparakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamshta Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Rakanatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadhuitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shivashakan Vitamshcha Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtad Bhutali Shrimate Bhakti Vakasa Swami Iti Namane Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtad Bhutali Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namane Namaste Sarasvati Deve Gauravani Prasharne Nirvashesha Shunari Pashtyati Dishatarne Bhutir Mahadvira Imafporo Vibor Nirmaya Shiti Anmusha Purasha Bhunkti Gunan Shudasha Shudashatmaka Suranga Shishta Bhagavan Vachamsime. The translation, again, O my friend, please therefore chant the glories of the Lord, who is meant to be glorified in the places of pilgrimage. He is unborn, and yet he appears by his causeless mercy upon the surrendered rulers of all parts of the universe. Only for their interest did he appear in the family of his unalloyed devotees, the Yadus. So this is Vidura speaking, and he's inducing or pleading Uddhava to speak the glories of Lord Krishna. He's saying that he's gone on pilgrimage, and he's saying that the purpose of pilgrimage, he's meant to be glorified in the places of pilgrimage. And Srila Prabhupada gets into the purport. He explains that the purpose of pilgrimage is to glorify the Lord. And so in the next chapter, Uddhava relates Krishna's pastimes, mainly out of Vrindavan. Yeah, exactly, out of Vrindavan. The Lord's pastimes out of Vrindavan, to Vidura. So here, there are a couple of points in the purport. The first immediate one that comes in the verse, this word here, Akila Lokapanam, the demigods, another word, at least for the chief demigods, are Lokapalas, the rulers of the universe, or administrators of the universe, you could take it as. So they're being referred to here. Srila Prabhupada quotes this verse in the purport indirectly. What is that? Arsapabritya. How does it begin? Ikaleshwara Krishna Arsapabritya. Jaishinach. I forget the Bengali. Anyway, the Supreme Lord Krishna is the only Ishwar, controller, and everybody else, all the demigods, are his servants. And they dance according to his desire. So the demigods, they're in charge of the universe. They're in charge of the varieties of planets, the sun planet, the moon planet, the heavenly planet. But Lord Krishna is in charge of all of them. And when there's trouble in the universe, Srila Prabhupada makes the point here that they approach Lord Krishna for help. The demigods, they can take care of the demons to some extent, but they can't go the full way. One significant thing, and of course Srila Prabhupada quotes here this important verse, Iti chamsha kalaf pumsam krishnastu bhagavan swayam, which most of us know, at least that have. Srila Prabhupada will often quote. But the second half, Indralya vyakulam lokam mridayanti yoge yoge. So Krishna, the Supreme Personality of God, it descends. Why? To kill, literally, the demons, or literally the enemies of Indra. So when Indra has a problem, Indra is topmost demigod, other than, you could say, Brahma is there, but generally, conventionally, Indra is taken as chief. When there's a problem for Indra and he can't solve it, just like in the case of Hiranyakashipu, for instance, then the demigods, they approach even for Brahma, actually. Lord Brahma, he was offering prayers to Lord Vishnu on the Moke Ocean in the 10th canto we find. So the demigods approach the Lord, and the Lord's function is to kill the demons. Recently, I was hearing a snippet of some podcast, and by some bogus people, they're claiming their guru is God, basically. They claim their Paramahamsa guru is God, and actually they're quoting this verse. So they're saying, the argument was there that how do you know your guru is God? How do you know this person is God? They worship him like God. They offer tulasi leaves to this person's feet. And actually, many people are bewildered by this. I know Srila Prabhupada, I was speaking to Kalki Prabhu recently. During Srila Prabhupada's time, it was quite often that bogus gurus would come to the West and just completely bewilder people. Now it's not so much. Bogus gurus are there, but generally, at least those that I know of, they don't claim to be God. And I was shocked to see that Westerners full-on believe this person is God. I was very, very shocked. And so anyway, so making it short, so they're discussing this. How do you claim that this person is God? And so actually they're quoting this verse. They're saying this is there, eti chamsha kalaf pumsa krishnastu bhagavan swayam. And then they quote a verse, I think it comes before this. Most of us may know the English. The Sanskrit goes as avatar hiya sankyeya harisatva nirdhe dvijaha yata vidashina kulya sarasa syuk sahasrashaha. O Brahmana, this is Sutta Goswami speaking, O Brahmanas, the incarnations of the Lord are innumerable, like rivulets flowing from the inexhaustible sources of water. So, Sutta Goswami is listing in Canto 1, Chapter 3, different prominent incarnations of the Lord, and then he says this, I've given you these, but it's impossible to list all the incarnations. And so these people are saying, well, even Shastra says it's impossible to list all the incarnations. So how do you know that this person is an incarnation? Was their argument? But the thing is given, they're quoting this verse, iti chamsha, but they're neglecting the second point. Indirari vyakulam lokam mridanyanti yoge yoge. Of the many functions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Prabhupada would often make the point is that he kills the demons. So when an incarnation comes, his function is seen, as Krishna says in Gita, it's prominently seen that he protects the devotees and he kills the demons. So in any incarnation, this has to be seen. It's not that somebody can be in an incarnation and not kill the demons. Of course, Lord Chaitanya didn't necessarily kill demons, but he killed the demonic mentality. But still, Lord Chaitanya, he exhibited his Godhead, his position of being the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Mahaprakash Leela, showing himself to be Lord Vishnu himself, and also exhibiting, in the case of Jagan Madhai, he almost killed the demons, exhibited his opulence, possessing the Sudarshan chakra. So he very clearly established that he was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So there's symptoms, in other words. Anyway, I don't want to make a whole side point of this. There's so many bogus things that they're saying, and so many other points you can refute them with, but I was just struck by they're quoting this verse, but they're completely neglecting the second half of it. It's interesting, they know Shastra to some extent. They're quoting the 11th canto, but they're completely mixed up in their understanding of Shastra because they haven't heard from the proper authority. So anyway, to today's verse, more on topic. So Lord Krishna here, well, there's different points I'll try and cover. We'll see. So this word here, Yadushu, literally means in the family of the Yadus. Jatasya Artaya Jatasya Yadushu Ajasya. So the unborn, he's taken birth where? Yadushu, within the family of the Yadus. Why has he done so? That is, let's see. He appears by his causes, well, two parts. One, here, two reasons are given. He's appeared within the family of the Yadus on the plea of the rulers of the universe. The demigods offered their prayers, Satyavaram, Satyaparam, Trisatyam, Satyasa Yonim Nitam Shasatye, in the 11th canto, offering such nice, eloquent prayers. And the Lord was pleased, specifically Lord Brahma offered his prayers. The demigods petitioned Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma offered Purusha Shukta, he chanted. And then the Lord was pleased by such, and then the demigods consequently glorified. So that's one reason that Lord Krishna appeared. Another reason is that he appeared by his causeless mercy. It's not that the Lord is he's not obligated to appear just because the demigods offered, just because Lord Brahma prayed for it. So many people are praying to God, but that doesn't mean that God would descend into their house. So ultimately, in one sense, he descended by his causeless mercy. Another reason he takes birth, interestingly, so these words are here used, ajasya, of the unborn. So Krishna is unborn, but he took birth. Why? Kunti, she says, ajastvam asakshe maya vadaya chasara dvisham. Undoubtedly, Lord Krishna, you are unborn, but you take your birth to protect your devotees and also to kill the demons. She says the same thing. She continues, Kechida hora jam jatam punishloka sakirtaye yedof priyasyanvavaye malayasyeva chandanam. Some say that the unborn is born for the glorification of pious kings, like the Yadus. And others say that he is born to please, specifically King Yadu, one of your dearest devotees. You appear in his family as sandalwood appears in the Malaya hills. So, glorification of pious kings like Vrishni, like Surashena, Vasudev, etc., all these pious kings, devotees actually, more specifically Yadu, we see Lord Krishna, he's associated specifically with the Yadu dynasty, just like the word here is used, Yadushu, although he's also a Vrishni, also that's there, Shri Krishna Krishna Saka Vrishni Rishi Bhavani Drug. So Lord Krishna is glorified because of his relation to the Vrishnis. Actually, the Vrishnis are glorified because of Lord Krishna's relationship with him. Same thing with the Yadu. So here Queen Kunti is saying that Lord Krishna, he appears within the Yadu dynasty for the glorification of King Yadu. And his appearing in there is just like how sandalwood trees appear in the Malaya hills. So it's Srila Prabhupada in his purport to this verse, I'll quote from it now. Although he is known as Yadava, Yaduvira, Yadunandana, etc., he is always independent of such obligation. He is just like the sandalwood that grows in the Malaya hills. Trees can grow anywhere and everywhere, yet because the sandalwood trees grow mostly in the area of the Malaya hills, the names sandalwood and the Malaya hills are interrelated. So, succinctly, in other words, Krishna can appear anywhere, he can appear in any dynasty, he's not obligated to appear in the Yadu dynasty, but he chooses to appear in the Yadu dynasty. So therefore, there's an intimate connection between Lord Krishna and the Yadus. So, therefore, he's addressed by these different names. Just like I was quoting here within the Yadu dynasty. Similarly, throughout Shastra, we see so many instances of Lord Krishna being glorified by his relationship with the Yadus. And others, Vrishni, his relationship within the royal dynasties. Abhimanyu Sutta was quoting the other day, Namo Namaste Stavarushabhaya Sattvatam. Actually, this is too. He's in relation to the Vrishni dynasty, and Sattvatam, Srila Prabhupada, he translates this as he's in relation to the Sattvatas, means Yadu dynasty. Shukadev Goswami, he says, the translation of this, let me offer my respectful obeisances unto him who is the associate of the members of the Yadu dynasty. Similarly, elsewhere he says, Shriyav Patir Yagyapatir Prajapatir Dhyam Patir Lokapatir Dharapatihi Patir Gatish Chandaka Vrishni Sattvatam Prasitatam Me Bhagavan Satam Patihi. May Lord Krishna, who is the worshipable Lord of all devotees, the protector and the glory of all kings like Andaka and Vrishni of the Yadu dynasty, and the husband of the goddess of fortune, he continues on, he says, may he be pleased with me. So devotees glorify Krishna like this, using these sorts of names. Krishna's relation with specifically his royal, specifically we see after, although when Krishna is exhibiting pastimes as a kshatriya, generally these names are used. Otherwise, in Vrindavan, he's generally known as Yashodanandan, etc., Nandanandana, etc., like this. So similarly to Krishna's father is Vyasadeva. His relationship with the Yadus, Krishna's father is Vasudev, who himself is a Vrishni and Yadu, and whose father was Shurasena, who was a very prominent king within that clan. So I won't give you a full genealogy of the Yadu dynasty, but you can just simply know that Lord Krishna is coming in that line. So similarly, elsewhere in Bhagavatam, Matyachva Kachapa Nrsimha Varaha Hamsa Rajana Vipra Vibhudishi Kritavataraha Tvam Pasinastri Bhavanam Cha Yithadu Nisha Bharam Bhavo Hara Yadutama Vandanam Te. Lord Krishna, among the Yadus, Lord Krishna is the best of the Yadus. Although the Yadus themselves are such demigods took birth within the Yadu dynasty on Lord Krishna's order, and even the Yadu dynasties possessed of such great devotees themselves. But still, nevertheless, Lord Krishna is considered the chief of all the Yadus. So Lord Krishna is more pleased when he's addressed by these names, Yadutama, Yaduvira, Yadunandana, etc. like this, because it indicates an intimate relationship with his devotees. Like this. Srila Prabhupada in the purport, let's see. The surrendered rulers and the pure devotees are always strictly under the control of the Lord, and they are never disobedient to the desires of the Lord. The Lord is therefore always attentive to them. So the pure devotees are always very dear to the Lord, and consequently, the Lord likes to be addressed in relationship to his pure devotees. He likes to glorify his pure devotees. Although this word here is used, tirtha kirtehe, that Lord Krishna, Lord Vishnu as well, his pastimes are chanted in the places of pilgrimage, Lord Krishna likes to glorify his own devotees. The devotees like to glorify Lord Krishna, and Lord Krishna likes to glorify his devotees. So, moving on to a different part, Srila Prabhupada says within this purport, well, on the same point, the purpose of pilgrimage is to remember the Lord constantly, and therefore the Lord is known as Tirtha Kirti. The purpose of going on to a place of pilgrimage is to get the chance to glorify the Lord. Even today, although times have changed, there are still pilgrimage sites in India. So when you go on pilgrimage, generally the essence of pilgrimage is not to take bath in a river. Of course, that's also there. It's not that you neglect it, but the real thing is hearing and chanting about Lord Krishna and taking association of saintly people who then hear and chant. Principally, the saintly people chant and then you hear. So the real purpose of going on pilgrimage is to engage in kirtan and to hear kirtan. Not just musical kirtan, that's also there, but also hearing the glories of the Lord. This is what Vidura did. So, Srila Prabhupada offers his own example. Even today, although times have changed, there are still pilgrimage sites in India. For example, in Mathura and Vrindavan, where we had a chance to stay, people are awake from early in the morning at 4 a.m. up until nighttime and are constantly engaged some way or other in chanting the holy glories of the Lord. Yeah, and he continues on like this. So it's a traditional practice since even Vedic times, rising early and performing kirtan, glorifying the Lord throughout the day. Srila Prabhupada writes here in Vrindavan and Mathura, from 4 a.m. up until nighttime. People are constantly engaged some way or other in chanting the glories of the Lord. There's a very vivid image in my mind when I was in Vrindavan. We were at the Daoji temple. And I remember outside that temple there was one, I think it was I don't know what to call that, some like small temple or something by the Nimbarka Sampradaya. And there were just two people there. It was like 5 o'clock in the morning or something like that. There were two devotees there. And one was playing harmonium, and the other was playing some sort of, I don't know what kind of drum it was, mridangam or something. Not this, but I think the South Indian, some drum, some large two-headed drum. And they were just sitting there and they were singing kirtan in the morning tune, and it was so beautiful. It was so nice. And anywhere you go in Vrindavan, there's always kirtan going. Of course, it's not always bona fide kirtan or even Krishna kirtan, but the idea is there at least that there's kirtan. Especially the devotees who go to Vrindavan, they engage in kirtan, chanting the holy names of Krishna, hearing the glories of Lord Krishna, etc. It's very important when we go to a holy place. Otherwise, the consciousness, why the hearing is so important, because otherwise, like so many people who go to temples, specifically within India, they just go, they see the Lord, they don't even know anything about the Lord. They just see him and they ask for some sort of blessings. But there's so much history to these sites of pilgrimage. There's so many stories connected with it. And hearing about those things is purifying. And it also deepens our devotion and our understanding of Lord Krishna and his pastimes. So, principal thing is kirtan. Principal thing is hearing. Like this. Both things are in tandem. Going on pilgrimage, seeing the forms of the Lord, etc., but also hearing about the Lord, hearing about those forms of the places of pilgrimage. From early in the morning, Srila Prabhupada makes the point here, people in Vrindavan Mathura, they're awake early in the morning at 4 a.m. up until nighttime. And it's quite difficult to do. and some seasons it's easy. In the summer season, it's nice to wake up at 4 a.m. because that's the only time of day it's cool. Sometimes it's not even cold at 4 a.m. Sometimes it's like 90 degrees at 4 a.m. still. But in winter season, especially Mathura Vrindavan, is very difficult. It's freezing cold. And the temples, which are often built out of some sort of stone, sometimes marble, is like ice cold. Even if you're not on the stone, it's just the atmosphere is very, very cold. But still, nevertheless, people will wake up early in the morning and glorify the Lord. So similarly, too, in the evening, they would glorify the Lord. Because in the morning, principally, specifically before sunrise, what are you going to do? At least traditionally, there's no, before electricity, what are you supposed to do? You can't work, there's no sunlight. And in the evening, what are you supposed to do? The sun is gone, you can't really work. So traditionally, people use this time for spiritual practice. It's not just a traditional practice, it has basis in Shastra, specifically Brahma Muhurta, an hour and 36 minutes before sunrise. That's the most auspicious time of the day, and it's most conducive to any sort of spiritual practice. Hearing, chanting, japa, kirtan, reading, spiritual literature. Srila Prabhupada, there was in one lecture, he says that if you read anything during this Brahma Muhurta hour, that what you read there, it will stick in your mind throughout the whole day. It's more valuable than reading than at any other time of the day. Of course, chanting is also very, very effective. We focus on chanting during Brahma Muhurta. We don't have a Bhagavatam class then. We have it later, but still we have Bhagavatam class in the morning. And we chant our rounds generally during Brahma Muhurta. Actually, we have Mangalarti at Brahma Muhurta, generally. The thing is, the sun changes. Now it's... now the sun is like setting at Sandhya, evening Sandhya is something like 9 o'clock in the evening, or something ridiculous. So you don't have to be a fanatic, but generally, Srila Prabhupada, he gave a standard timing, 4:30 a.m. Go to Mangalarti like this. So the benefit is there, rising early in the morning, hearing and chanting about the glories of the Lord. He also implemented at some point an evening program, hearing and chanting in the evening. Traditionally, it was done, not exactly evening program, but at least traditionally people would hear and chant in the evening, just like I was saying earlier. My spiritual master, he says during his time in Bengal, when the sun goes down, generally sun in India, it stays the same. 6 o'clock is like the time it sets, more or less. Maybe it will do a little bit earlier, a little bit later, but generally, since it's near the equator, it's generally always 6 o'clock. So if you go to sleep at 9, 10 o'clock, it's like there's just 3 hours where it's just dark. You can't see anything. So you can't work, you can't do so much anything practical labor, we'll say. So the only thing to do is just kirtan, and traditionally people will do such kirtan. They'll hold kirtan, or there will be readings. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he says that usually the Puranas were read in the evenings. When people have completed their day's work, typically people would use the morning hours if they're engaged in labor. For example, farmers, the best time to do whatever sort of labor you want to do is the morning hours because it's nice and cool then. Otherwise, if we try to do it even when the sun is up, just like here, it's hot like anything, and it stays hot like anything even after the sun is set. So out of practicality, it's like that. So they would use the evening hours as recreation, we could say. Well, not just mundane recreation, yukta hara viharasya, yukta cheshta karmasu, yukta svapna vabhodyasa, yogo bhavati dukkha. So what is that Sanskrit word that comes? Yukta hara viharasya, yukta cheshta karmasu. So karmasu, Krishna says in Gita, Srila Prabhupada translates as recreation. So it's not a sort of mundane recreation. It's recreation, of course, that's there for mundane people. You could also take it like that. But for devotees, recreation, he takes his recreation, his leisure hours are used still in the service of Krishna. There's no break from Krishna's service. So he uses it to hear, to chant, etc., associate with devotees, take prasad, etc., like this. This is a devotee's recreation. So people will use these evening hours for these things. Srila Prabhupada gave an evening program, Sandhya Arti, glorifying Lord Chaitanya as he appears on the banks of the Ganges, as all the demigods are appearing and worshiping Lord Chaitanya in that form. And also he instituted different classes, Bhagavad Gita, generally. Sometimes they would do nectar devotion, they would change things like that. So Srila Prabhupada would give this program. Of course, he gave allowances at later points, but he gave this program of hearing and chanting in the morning and evening because it was traditionally done. And also, it's very conducive for devotional service. It gives a good, perspective towards devotees. Without hearing and chanting, in other words, otherwise, just going on with mechanical devotional service, not mechanical, but just going on with service without hearing and chanting, things become mechanical, let's say. And so, Karma Kanda, actually, Srila Prabhupada made that point. Without hearing and chanting, devotional service is more or less just Karma Kanda. I was reading that yesterday. He was saying in relation to prasad distribution, If you go out and you feed people, but you don't accompany it by hearing and chanting, it's no better than karma kanda. So similarly too, we can be going on in devotional service and do practical service, even big service, but if we don't attend to these programs, hearing and chanting, making a point to hear and chant nicely, then our devotional service would dry up. So it's the water, hearing and chanting is the water that nourishes our bhakti-lata abhij. So it's very, very important. So yeah, I was making this point, hearing and chanting. Morning and evening, principally morning is very, very important. Evening as well as there. Evening generally because people have time in the evenings, just like I was saying. So these hours should be made use of. And Srila Prabhupada says even it was still current in India during Srila Prabhupada's time. I was seeing, at least where I was at, South India, which is less advanced, more conservative, even there it was still prominent. And Vellore, where I was staying, which was just some village in the middle of nowhere practically, it was, still I was seeing people, the villagers, we would be up, and the villagers would be up too at like 4 o'clock in the morning. Of course, the villagers, they're doing farming work, so it makes sense for them to do that. They'll be out. But at 4 o'clock, they would be doing some sort of spiritual practice. There will be, of course, it's not always bona fide. At 4 o'clock, we would be having our Mangalarti. Side by side, they would have their Ayappa Kirtan blasting every single day. Ayappa, if you don't know, is some speculated demigod who they claim to be incarnation of Vishnu. But anyway, the point is some devotion is there. They're going on, waking up early, hearing and chanting about what they perceive as spiritual topics. So the culture is still going on, even though it's in a, let's say, perverted form. So this is very nice. This culture it should be maintained. It should be revived in a pristine state. Specifically in farm communities, we see this. That again, like I was speaking, although now here we have electricity, so it's like morning, evening, it doesn't really matter because if you want to work from 4 o'clock in the morning to 10 o'clock at night, nobody will stop you. But if you don't have electricity, it becomes very, very difficult to do. You're much more aware of the phases of the sun, the phases of the moon, etc., like that. So in a farm community, I see that generally the evening hours are used more in hearing and chanting because, like I was saying, there's nothing else to do. There's no light. There's light, but that light is just an oil lantern, something like that. So it's very, very minimum. So yeah, in this way, it's a natural arrangement by Krishna to allow the human being, as the point is made, human life is not meant for working like asses and hogs and dogs who eat stool. It's not meant for working hard like an ass. Because we have electricity, humanity has enabled itself to work hard like an ass. People can work. Some people, it's quite common actually, they only work during the graveyard shift, the night shift. They work from something like 9 o'clock in the morning until when the sun comes up. It's very common. You see, just like I was saying earlier, some bus driver stopped here at this bus stop. So he's probably driving from super early in the morning, and then, maybe like noon or so he'll get off like that. So similarly, people will work these 24-hour jobs, just like, the shops down the street. There's people there at 1 o'clock in the morning. If you walk in and you want to buy like some tissues at 1 o'clock in the morning, you can do it. You can do it, no problem. Because of electricity. Electricity, although it's not all bad, it's not electricity is a big demon. It's enabling me to project my voice. We have this, so many things are there. But because it's been taken in the wrong sense, it's just completely destroyed this natural time that's been allotted by Krishna for the human being to take advantage of spiritual life. Even within Europe, we see traditionally, church service is held in the morning, and there's also evening. I was seeing one sect, I don't know if it was, anyway, I forget the name of the sect, but it was a Catholic order, I guess you call it, Catholic like monastery, you would say, and they have times for their services, which typically are attended by only the monks. I forget what the exact word they call it. But the first service they have in the morning is at 4 o'clock in the morning. I was very surprised, actually. And even Muslims, they offer their first prayers also very, very early in the morning. I don't know exactly the time. But, even then, speaking that, in Vellore, you hear that. Elsewhere, if you go to North India, you hear Muslims, they're chanting these prayers at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. So there's an idea within any religious system that these hours are supposed to, these early morning and evening hours, they're meant to be used for focusing on God, because that's the point of life. Of course, and so Srila Prabhupada gave us that, a morning program, evening program, with a full day's worth of service. So, another point I wanted to touch on is that Srila Prabhupada makes this point that, as I read earlier, the surrendered rulers are the pure devotees are always strictly under the control of the Lord, and they are never disobedient to the desires of the Lord. The Lord is therefore always attentive to them. Just seeing the translation as he gives it. So, of his unalloyed devotees, the Yadus. So, two people are mentioned here, Srila Prabhupada is talking about, that the rulers of the surrendered rulers, there's the rulers of the universe, but they're not always surrendered. Indra is there, but he's not always surrendered, just like we see in Govardhan Lila, but lifting the Govardhan hill. Indra, although he's a devotee, he became envious of the Supreme Personality of God himself. So we see instances in other demigods as well. But they're dear to the Lord, undoubtedly, don't get me wrong, but more dear to the Lord is the unalloyed devotee, who are always never disobedient to the desires of the Lord. The Lord is therefore always attentive to them. Just like an unalloyed devotee is fully dependent upon the Supreme Lord. Whereas alloyed devotees or mixed devotees, they're not completely dependent upon the Lord. They still have some sort of desire for material gain, name, fame, and consequently they have some sort of, belief in their own strength. So they don't feel unalloyed devotion to the Lord. But for one who is completely dependent upon the Lord gives them his special protection. Therefore, the Lord is always attentive to them. Just like a mother or father is especially, they're attentive to all their children, but one who is the youngest child, typically, one who is helpless, they're especially attentive to. So the Krishna is especially attentive to his devotees who render him pure unalloyed service and who have no other shelter than himself. I was just reading in Mahabharata recently. Of course, there's the famous incident of Draupadi being disrobed. And one interesting point I read is that, of course, we hear often that Draupadi, she was trying to hold the cloth herself, trying to cover herself. But another point is that Draupadi, she was appealing to everybody else in the assembly that, is this right? Is this just? And nobody said anything. So simultaneously, she was trying to protect herself, and then she was looking for others to protection, even though these people were devotees, Bhishma, etc. like this, and nobody helped her. It's only when she became fully dependent upon Lord Krishna, and then that mercy manifested. So it's just one instant. There are so many different instances of Lord Krishna showering his mercy upon a devotee, because they're never disobedient to the desires of the Lord. What does that mean? Can be kind of vague. Sometimes devotees, they're disobedient to the desires of the Lord. What is the desire of the Lord? Well, if you're not fortunate enough to have the direct association of Lord Krishna himself, desire of the Lord comes through parampara, it comes through the spiritual master, so you can take it directly. If we take it in this direction, the desire of the Lord means the desire of the spiritual master. The desire of the spiritual master is not different from the desire of the Lord. He has no interest in himself. He's just let's see. Yeah, but I think that's it's a via medium. Transparent via medium, I think it means something technically else. I do it tomorrow. He makes that point. It's been edited out of the books, if you noticed that. Yeah, they edited out of the books because it means something else. It's like a technical term. He's a via medium. Transparent via medium means something slightly different. Anyway, it's a technical point. I won't get into it.
Transparent medium or via medium?
Via medium, I think it's just the word used. So anyway, the spiritual master is the via medium. So Krishna has his desires, and the spiritual master, he communicates those desires. Just like Srila Prabhupada, he would constantly emphasize this point, or quote this verse, Jaritaka Taika Krishna Upadesh, Amar Agya Guru Hana Hoya Tara Edesh, that you just become a spiritual master and deliver the whole world. So in doing so, it was one of Srila Prabhupada's most quoted verses from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So in pushing his disciples to preach, it wasn't necessarily on his own behalf. He wasn't pushing his disciples to preach his own glories. He was pushing forward the desire of the Guru and Parampara. So it seems clear. Sometimes it's not clear. Sometimes a disciple may misunderstand the order of the spiritual master. The order may be vague. There's difficulties. So I want to discuss on this point a little bit, depending how much time I have remaining, on this point about the order of the spiritual master. So some time ago, there was a question by Chandranacharya Prabhu, which I was thinking about and I wanted to revisit, is that what if the spiritual master orders a disciple to do something that's not good for his spiritual life? And I was thinking, it doesn't seem like such a thing can exist. It doesn't seem like the spiritual master would ever put, what is that? It was something like that. No, it was something like that. Do you remember that? Because you gave an answer to that. Was that question, am I phrasing it correctly? What if the spiritual master puts a disciple in a situation that is not beneficial for him? Something like this.
Execute the order, but finds himself in a difficult
Yeah,
situation.
he's not able to do it, he's struggling and nothing's happening.
And it's not beneficial for
I don't
the...
think it was a question, I think it was a comment of someone else.
Like it appears not beneficial.
Anyway,
Anyway, so so it doesn't appear like such a thing exists. A spiritual master, he can, everything, because it's the desire of the Lord coming through, anything a spiritual master orders for his disciple is for the benefit of the disciple. Even if he knows the disciple can't handle it, it's for the benefit of the disciple. Even if the spiritual knows that the disciple can't do it, still, it's in the interest of the disciple to do it. Just like, for instance, who is that? The Brahmana, I think it's Sri Rangam, who was ordered by his spiritual master to read the Bhagavad Gita. Srila Prabhupada makes the point that his spiritual master knew he couldn't read, yet still, nevertheless, he told him to read the Bhagavad Gita every single day, all 18 chapters. So though his spiritual master, he knew he couldn't do it, but still, nevertheless, we see the example of the disciple that he was trying to do it nevertheless. Similarly, too, Srila Prabhupada, he ordered his disciples to print 17 volumes of books which were in the manuscript state within 2 months, which is completely inconceivable. It's for it's just crazy, you know. There were just tapes. The tapes had to be transcribed. Then everything had to be edited. Then none of the devotees spoke Bengali or knew how to write Bengali script. And these books, they were Chaitanya Charitamrita principally in Bengali. And then there had to be art that was supposed to be included in the paintings. And then the books had to be laid out. And then they had to be printed themselves. Within 2 months, it's difficult to print. If you're trying to bring one book to publication within 2 months, it's very, very difficult. What to speak of 17 volumes that are of like high-class literature.
actually 19, because there was
19.
The third canto and the fourth canto.
So what was seemingly impossible to fill, it was fulfilled. So similarly too, we see in the case of Brahmananda Prabhu that Srila Prabhupada told him to get this Bhagavad Gita published by Macmillan. How are you supposed to do that? It seems like in 1966, where the devotees had no facility, there was just some nobody down in like a slum, basically. But still, Srila Prabhupada, he went to Macmillan with a faith, after somebody, anyway, it's a long story. After somebody at Macmillan had ordered a record from the devotees, Srila Prabhupada told Brahmananda to try and get them to publish his Bhagavad Gita. So Brahmananda Prabhu, he went there. Macmillan, a huge company, they have a huge building. Brahmananda Prabhu goes there, and he meets the person, and it's just some clerk or something like that, some like insignificant somebody in Macmillan. And then he gives them in the record, and then I think he mentions that he has a Bhagavad Gita to the man or something. And then the chief editor for Macmillan Company comes in the room, and then Brahmananda presents his Bhagavad Gita to them, and the chief editor says, actually, we've been looking for a Bhagavad Gita. It seemed impossible. Actually, it was impossible. Practically speaking, it's impossible. How can somebody just walk into it's like if I approach the New York Times and I'm like, hey, can you print this article for me? Like a nobody, I have no pull, I have no sway, like whatsoever. Brahmananda Prabhu, he was an elementary teacher, I think, something like that. But because he had the faith in the order of his spiritual master.
Unless you want to throw dirt on someone.
Huh?
Unless you want to throw dirt on someone.
What is that?
I'm just saying. Then New York Times gets excited.
Oh yeah, if you want to throw dirt on someone, then they get excited. If you want to treat it like a tabloid, they become like that. Anyway, the order of the spiritual master appeared impossible to fulfill, but he fulfilled it. Sometimes the order of the spiritual master is impossible to fulfill. In one sense, we hear generally, at least immediately, we hear that the potency to carry out the order of the spiritual master comes with the order of the spiritual master, but sometimes it's not always immediately apparent. Dhananjaya Prabhu, who was the first Scottish disciple of Srila Prabhupada, initiated in 1968, I think, something like that. So Srila Prabhupada, he told Dhananjaya Prabhu to go to Manipur. Manipur is a state within India, some mountainous state. And Srila Prabhupada said, formerly, many Scottish missionaries had gone to this state and they converted many Vaishnavas to Christianity. Now I want you, who Dhananjaya Prabhu is a Scotsman, I want you to go there and convert them back to Vaishnavism. So Dhananjaya Prabhu, he says so this was an order that was pretty hard to fulfill because Manipur at that time, maybe even now, I don't know, it was a restricted area. It means that you couldn't, even if you got a visa to go into India, you can't go into Manipur. Is it still like that? Do you know?
Some portions of the northeast system.
You need special permission by the government to go to those regions. And so he got that order in 1970-something, Dhananjaya Prabhu, and it was only until 1996 that the state of India allowed him entrance into Manipur for only 5 days. So he, so he said, that order was a little difficult to fulfill. Of course, you can make the argument where you can illegally go there and try to preach, but so the order was there, but it was a little difficult for Dhananjaya Prabhu to do. So similarly, too, just like getting back to this other example, the order, this Brahmana Sri Rangam, his spiritual master ordered him to read the Bhagavad Gita. He wasn't reading the Bhagavad Gita. It wasn't possible for him to read the Bhagavad Gita. And he was trying, but he didn't. Superficially, it doesn't look like he fulfilled the order of the spiritual master. He wasn't reading. If he wanted to fulfill the order of the spiritual master, it seems like logically he would learn to read, and then he would read the Bhagavad Gita. But he was trying to do something ridiculous in that he was immediately trying to take to the reading of the Bhagavad Gita. He wasn't even reading it. He was just looking at it. He was just looking at the book. But his effort to do it, it pleased Lord Chaitanya more than, necessarily it's not that he had to go and read, but Lord Chaitanya was especially pleased that he was trying to fulfill the order of his spiritual master. Like this. So, spiritual master, there's many orders he gives. There's general orders for all disciples. Generally, when we say order of the spiritual master, in our mind, at least myself, it thinks it's a specific order, and he gives it to one person, and that's every spiritual master, he gives a specific order to each individual person. It may be like that, it may not be like that. Srila Prabhupada, he didn't instruct many of his disciples. The majority of his disciples, Srila Prabhupada didn't personally instruct. He did personally instruct them in another sense. He says that what's contained in my books are personal instructions. Just like generally, chanting 16 rounds, following 4 regular principles. General thing for all devotees, they vow at the time of initiation. This is the chief order of the spiritual master. Srila Prabhupada makes the point in Chaitanya Charitamrita, I think, that among the orders of the spiritual master, the chief is to chant 16 rounds. So that's a standing order for all disciples. Srila Prabhupada, he wanted all of his disciples to learn I want that all my students learn this art of book distribution. There's a standing order to all disciples. General order, going to Mangalarti, taking only Krishna Prasad, going to Srimad Bhagavatam class, attending temple programs associating with devotees. In general, pushing on Lord Chaitanya's movement. These are general orders for all disciples. And just by adhering to these general orders that Srila Prabhupada has given, that the spiritual master has given, then one can perfectly achieve success. Just by, for example, if one chants 16 rounds followed 4 regs, goes on book distribution, attends Mangalarti, Krishna Prasad, at the end of his life, undoubtedly, on Srila Prabhupada's assurance, he'll go back to Godhead. It's not that you have to have some sort of special, you go here, you do this X, Y, Z, etc. like that. Just this is enough. And we see practically with devotees, prominent example, Bhagavad Prabhu himself, who was here, Srila Prabhupada didn't directly tell him, you go on book distribution, you distribute books, to my knowledge.
You do Sankirtan and you'll be Mahavictor.
Personally?
He has a question in the class.
Oh, really, huh? Oh, it's a good...
I was on the phone, the recording. Yeah, but
But it's okay. That's you could take it. Devotees do take it like that. Disciples do take it like that. That a spiritual master may mention something, and they take that as their life and soul, etc., like that. So, so my example is violated now. But generally, the example is, even if, for example, like, what's a prominent example? Okay, for example, I'll take the example of my own spiritual master. Srila Prabhupada didn't specifically tell my spiritual master to go to India to preach. But Srila Prabhupada especially wanted disciples to go to India to learn the culture, to preach there, learn Hindi, etc., like that. So it was a general order and was taken up by his disciple. So like this, there's standing orders of the spiritual master that any disciple can take advantage of. Some are general, some are mandatory, and some are desires of the spiritual master. We're speaking here about the desires of the Lord. The desire of the spiritual master is the desire of the Lord. And there's spiritual master, he gives many instructions, and some are standing, unfulfilled orders. Just like for a long time, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he wanted to preach in the West. An attempt was made to fulfill that order on 2 occasions, but neither attempt met success. So practically during the when did he go? During the 60s, it was a dead idea, more or less, among Srila Prabhupada's godbrothers, that people can go to the West and preach. It was a standing, unfulfilled order by the spiritual master. And because Srila Prabhupada acted on it with faith, he attained the mercy of his spiritual master. He already had the mercy of his spiritual master, but he attained great success. So there's many standing, unfulfilled orders, specifically of Srila Prabhupada we have recorded, and also possibly of our own spiritual master. There's so many things. The obvious one is Varnashram, establishing Varnashram. So much mercy is there. The other half of his movement, Srila Prabhupada deemed it as. So similarly, too, there are small things. In Bombay, Srila Prabhupada, he wanted 24-hour kirtan. That's not going on to my knowledge. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, I'm pretty shocked at this one, actually. Srila Prabhupada, he writes that the editors of our movement, they should compile a cookbook listing all of these Bengali preparations that are given, and this comes in the chapter Advaitacharya feeding a feast to Lord Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya. So Srila Prabhupada wanted a cookbook of all these items, and there's nothing that exists actually. Nobody, to my knowledge, at least in English, maybe in Bengali they have something, but Srila Prabhupada wrote it in English, so he wanted it in English. Nobody ever took up this effort to make this cookbook. As an open order, anybody can take anybody can take advantage of that order and fulfill the desire of Srila Prabhupada. But the tendency is to neglect these things. Whereas generally, if the spiritual master personally tells you to do something, you feel like, oh, I have to do something like that. But if it gives a general instruction, just like if I say, if I call out someone in the crowd, please get me some water, X, please bring me some water, they'll bring me some water. But if I just say, can I have some water, people will look around and be like, oh, who's going to do it, etc., like that. So similarly, too, the order of the spiritual master is like that. Although there's not a difference in the potency between the two, it's not that if your spiritual master, because your spiritual master hasn't specifically told you to do something, it's not that that's more valuable, or the lack of that is, it's not that those specific instructions are not as valuable as these standing unfulfilled orders. For instance, it's not that, so the tendency to neglect, as I was saying. The tendency is to think somebody else would do it, just like we've seen with Varnashrama. Many devotees, they just go on with their lives and think, well, sure, the property wanted that, but somebody else would do it like that. So similarly, because it's not specifically directed towards them, there's a tendency to neglect, but there shouldn't be a tendency to neglect. Because we see the spiritual master is, for those who take up these standing unfulfilled orders, there's a great deal of mercy there. We see in the case of Srila Prabhupada himself. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, another point is that a spiritual master, he may give an order to the disciple, and it may not be very clear. I mean, it may be something vague, just like Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He told Srila Prabhupada to print books, and he told him, I want you to preach in the English language. He didn't specifically tell him to go to America to preach. That came later on. So there is a general order, and from that, intelligence came. Things were developed. Again, another example, Srila Prabhupada, he wanted his disciples to distribute his books. He didn't tell them how. He didn't give so many suggestions. He gave a few suggestions. You can go to bookstores, etc., like this, which people were doing. Jayananda Prabhu was doing. It wasn't so huge, but the real thing is when devotees started selling them on the streets. Then book distribution started to take off. So the spiritual master gave a general order, and the intelligence, by disciples acting on that order, the intelligence came how to actually fulfill that order, even though in the beginning it looked actually impossible. Hamsadutta Prabhu, he relates that, we had these books in Germany, I think he was at. They had all these Bhagavad Gitas they had ordered, and they're just sitting in a basement. And then they ordered all these Krishna books, and they're just sitting, and then they ordered those, and they sat in their basement. It was only after some years that they figured out how to distribute these books. So, succinctly, by an order may be vague in the beginning, but by acting on the spiritual order of the spiritual master, intelligence comes. Like this, orders come in parampara. They're the desires of our own spiritual master. There's the desires of our Param Guru. Desires of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So many, just like Bhaktivinoda Thakur, prominently, he wanted Mayapur developed. And that order is coming down in parampara. So we can take advantage of these orders. Specific orders to specific disciples. As I was mentioning, is what we think of when we hear the order of the spiritual master. It's not always so. Some disciples, they have specific orders. For example, Jadharani Mataji, she was ordered to paint by Srila Prabhupada. She had some sort of artistic ability. And so Srila Prabhupada, he wanted her to paint. So similarly too, Srila Prabhupada, he ordered different disciples to take up different services. Some disciples to take up photography, some to take up film, some to take up, etc., this, so on. So many different things Srila Prabhupada instructed his disciples in. And accordingly, those disciples molded their lives around that. One prominent letter by Jadharani Mataji, I don't know what year, I forget. She was asking Srila Prabhupada, should I go on book distribution? And how should I divide my time? In other words, should I go on book distribution or should I spend my time painting? So Srila Prabhupada, he responded that you should spend as much, you don't need to worry about going on Sankirtan party, you just stay there, you paint. And elsewhere, later, in a separate instance, he remarked that I think the best book distributors are the artists who are painting the art for these books. Because without the art, if you just show some text. Okay, we've seen this 18-volume Bhagavatam. It has the dust jackets. If you take that dust jacket off, it's just a brown book. Now, if you're trying to sell someone just that brown book, it may be very, very difficult, But if you show them nice, beautiful colored books with nice, gorgeous pictures, it's very, very nice. So by the effort of these artists, they've enabled, even today, actually, they're enabling so much book distribution to go on. So that was a specific order by the spiritual master to a specific person, but this may be there for some people and may not be there. It may be dangerous. The spiritual master may order you may want an order, the spiritual master may order you to do something, and then you may not be able to do it, or which then is disaster for your spiritual life. But it's not that specific orders be all, end all, as is sometimes thought, or as I sometimes think. The whole day and the whole movement practically is built on the order of the spiritual master. As I was saying, we go to Mangalarti. Why? The spiritual master orders us to do so. We chant japa. Why? Because the spiritual master orders us to do so. From waking, just like Srila Prabhupada is saying here, from the morning up until nighttime, people are constantly engaged. So we're constantly engaged in the order of the spiritual master, from waking until night. The whole day is built on that. So I have other points I'll just scan over. Postponement of the order of the spiritual master. Sometimes the spiritual master may order you to do something. You may not do it right away. Just like, prominent example, Srila Prabhupada himself. Srila Prabhupada, he didn't, if you ever get money printing books, Srila Prabhupada wasn't really printing. He didn't print anything until 1944, where he printed his Back to Godhead. But that wasn't even a book. It was 1950-something when he printed that Easy Journey to Other Planets. But even then, how he printed it, if you look how it was, that was like a booklet, more or less. Now it's a book, a small book, but it was like a booklet back then. First book you could take it that Srila Prabhupada ever printed was his Bhagavatam. It only happened 1960 or 62, I forget. Many years, 30 years later. And then, what is that? You said what? 62? 62. Oh, wow. So similarly, Srila Prabhupada coming to the West, he himself gives the example that like he didn't immediately take up the order of his spiritual master to preach because he couldn't in his situation. How could he in his situation as a Grahasta? But he never discarded that order of the spiritual master. That's what's important. So one may receive an order from the spiritual master, and he may not immediately act on it, but that should be kept within one's heart. Always trying to see how to fulfill that. Sometimes we bargain or others bargain with the spiritual master. The spiritual master has a desire. Lord Krishna has a desire. And we try to bargain around that, which is not always bad. It's not that the principle is that we don't adulterate that bargaining with our own material motives. Good example of bargaining, Srila Prabhupada, he wanted his disciples to chant 64 rounds. And they bargained it down to 16 rounds. Now, if those disciples didn't bargain their way down, I don't know how many people would be here. So, we can't necessarily say that Srila Prabhupada wanted everybody to chant 16 rounds, that's the standard, etc. like that. Spiritual master is not, he's a person, you can discuss with him, etc. like that. But it's not that, for example, another example on the contrary, Mitrivan Prabhu, he relates this. I think it was in Hong Kong. Anyway, the context is not important. He was asking Srila Prabhupada, can we use guitar in kirtan? And then Srila Prabhupada, he was reluctant. He displayed reluctancy, but Mitrivan Prabhu, he kept like pushing and pressing Srila Prabhupada to give like basically an affirmative answer. And then Srila Prabhupada said yes, is like okay. And then Mitrivan Prabhu, he writes this in My Glorious Master. He later relates that I shouldn't have done that, basically. Srila Prabhupada, he did that because I pushed him further on that matter, but I could see what Srila Prabhupada's desire was, and I could see how I was pushing him to be. Of course, it's not that the spiritual master can be influenced by the disciple. The spiritual master is merciful upon the disciple, but he's not inconsiderate of the disciple. So yeah, like this. So many other things can be said. Understanding the order of the spiritual master, properly understanding the order. Popular example, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, it looks like he disobeyed Gaura Kishore Das Babaji when he told him, among other things, not to go to Calcutta. But he had a very refined understanding of that order of his spiritual master, and that he said that because I'm always spending my time in the Gaudiya Math, it's like the spiritual world. So it may be difficult understanding. There's a very high level of understanding of the spiritual master. Of course, he's Nitya Siddha, like that.
Not to be imitated.
Yeah, exactly. Not to be imitated, but that's also there. The order of the spiritual master may be outdated. It may be overridden by something else. Srila Prabhupada, he writes in the first canto that there is no harm in co-education between boys and girls, so long as, and he continues on like this. He was in favor of co-education in 1960. In 1976, Srila Prabhupada, he wrote the boys and the girls, they should be completely separated. There's no need for education for girls, only the boys should, some base education, ABCD, etc. like that. But as far as Brahminical education is meant for the men. So Srila Prabhupada completely, he said like that, he wrote like that. Srila Prabhupada, so you can take this 1960 instruction of Srila Prabhupada and you can say, look how Srila Prabhupada is instructing here, but the order of the spiritual master, it developed and became outdated, etc. like that. So it's also a dynamic thing. It's not a very rigid, fixed thing. So I don't want to go too late. I have other points, but I don't want to go on so long. So anyway, on this point,
Quote something from Moody.
huh? What is that?
You read something from Moody.
I mean, I'm generally speaking like that. Some things are from that indirectly. Another point I was thinking is that the spiritual master may put the disciple in a situation that is not beneficial, however that came up. That's not beneficial for the disciple. Just like Srila Prabhupada, he ordered Harikesh Swami, I think at that time he was.
No, he's still Brahmachari.
He was still Brahmachari? What year was that?
Moscow, right?
I think it was Swami, because after he left Srila Prabhupada's party, he took sannyas. Do you know what year that was? 75? 76? Anyway, if it was after, it doesn't matter. If it was after 76, he would have taken sannyas. But the principle is, so Harikesh Prabhu, Srila Prabhupada told him to go to Russia to preach USSR, Soviet Russia at that time, and he didn't want to do it. He said, Srila Prabhupada, giving so many reasons, and he said, what am I going to eat there ultimately? And Srila Prabhupada said, all there is to eat. All there is to eat there is just meat, Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada, he told him, well, if you have to eat meat, you can eat meat. It didn't appear like it was favorable for his disciples' spiritual life, but Srila Prabhupada ordered like that. And if he would have gone to the USSR and preached, and if he would have eaten meat, that's okay. That's bona fide. Because he's acting on the order of the spiritual master. It's difficult to understand sometimes. It's difficult to understand. Yeah. What is that? It's not a license. This is a specific order for a specific person, of course, back to that point. It's not a general instruction. But that's there. So some things are more like suggestions. Karandhar Prabhu, he would relate that when speaking with Srila Prabhupada, sometimes Srila Prabhupada would say something, hey, why don't you go here, do this? And they would take it like an order, and they will go out, they will try and do it to the best of their ability. They'll come, it wouldn't work. They'll go back to Srila Prabhupada and say, Prabhupada, we try to do this. And Prabhupada's like, oh, really, you did that, huh? And like, in other words, they could, it wasn't such a serious thing. Srila Prabhupada, he wasn't thinking like it's an order. He was just giving some sort of idea, suggestion. Sometimes he wouldn't know if it will work. Srila Prabhupada. Many orders are like that. He will give, just like Srila Prabhupada, he sent his disciples to London. He didn't know if it will work. So many things like that. So some orders by the spiritual master is more like suggestions. It's not strictly like, for example, so many other things can be said. And you have to see what's practical too. I was thinking just the other day, Maharaj, he wanted 5 hours of Harinam, so he bargained him down to 1. As also an example of where it's not so, it may not be so practical in terms of time, place, and circumstance. So that's necessary. So, okay, I don't want to go over times, so I can end there. Okay, any questions? Otherwise, we can stop.
I don't know if I can share a video.
Go ahead. Yes, please. Send it to Tarish. Send it to Tarish.
Right?
Yeah. Tarish. He already has it on there. Oh, you got it.
Yeah. Okay, so this, yeah.
Please share. It's an amazing video.
Well, this is in regards to your amazement about Westerners accepting some person.
Oh, please.
I was really shocked.
Play this one. Please play this one. Oh, my God. Please play I played. Let's do it.
No, it's educational.
I have some education stuff.
I got some education if you want.
So that boy there is considered to be an incarnation of Sai Baba. These are all Westerners and the guy is eating chocolate.
Oh my God.
And all of them are sitting around him and worshipping him.
Oh my. Bro.
These are all Western people. And this fat, ugly boy,
Ugly moded out freaking boy.
he's just eating chocolate.
So moded out.
What happened to the Comic-Con homies become?
When the Comic-Con homies become spiritual?
What happened?
I mean, at least you had somebody with some pomp and splendor.
Now
Here's some young boy lying down on a couch that these people are worshipping.
Even during Srila Prabhupada's time, that Guru Maharaj Ji, he was just like 15 or 16 or something. He was a little plump during that time. So, yeah, it's shocking.
He didn't have tilak on or anything, bro. Like,
It's a bogus
Yeah,
sampradaya.
Tilak, nothing. He's wearing t-shirts and shorts.
he looks like just a regular homie, bro. Yeah. There's 1.2. Okay. This 1.2, is that the guru, he'll give us an order, and it could be hard. It could be hard for the disciple to perform that order, and that's only true if the guru is bona fide. Sometimes we see that the guru may be pushing someone, even if they're not following the 4 regs, to stay in a particular place. You stay in a particular place, you're not following the 4 regs, and the guru may tell you, and hey, actually, if I come to another place, I'll be able to follow the 4 regulated principles. and I'll be able to practice Krishna consciousness properly. And I'll probably remain a devotee my whole life if I was in this association. But the guru, due to being too attached to institutional, whatever it may be, although the disciple is not following the four legs and falling down, still, because he's just bound up by the bureaucracy of or institutionalism of whatever, because of that, they just want to keep him there. And they know the guy is going to like just, bloop out and fall down and leave, and that's so it requires intelligence actually.
One thing I was thinking in regards to the same point is that, so how can a spiritual master instruct a disciple that's contrary to spiritual life? Well, it doesn't make sense. But the spiritual master has to be expert. The only way that's possible if the spiritual master is not so advanced or is neophyte. Just like, okay, for example, if I were to become a spiritual master, I could. Anybody go to a sampradaya can initiate. But if I were to instruct somebody, it may not be the best advice. So, I may not instruct somebody based upon, with such good intelligence. So therefore, Srila Prabhupada writes in Chaitanya Charitamrita, in the beginning, the expert spiritual master, he perfectly knows how to engage the disciple. So therefore, one has to be very careful to accept the spiritual master as bona fide, first of all, and also elevated, advanced.
Specifically, difficulty, there's difficulty in service, and then there's difficulty in, practicing Krishna consciousness. That's the thing that the spiritual master has to, mainly see. It's if he's, spiritually strong, but he's struggling in his service, that's fine. But then to struggle in your principles, then the spiritual master should generally look and go, hey, maybe you need to change into either a different ashram or in different location or go amongst the devotees. So then that's the difficulty. If we are talking about difficulty, it seems to be difficulty with following the principles of devotional service. Then the instruction has to change from the spiritual master in order to facilitate that basic need of the disciple.
It's the same thing, just like Prabhupada, right? The principal order is to chant 16 rounds. So spiritual master, he may order other things, but that chanting, whatever is conducive, if a disciple is trying to follow an order and he's not able, and then, if by following that order through some circumstance, he can't chant 16 rounds, then what's the value of that order? Yeah. In other words, the chief thing is to chant 16 rounds. Of course, it gets a little complicated when you bring in other factors, but principle is there, so. Mata, did you have anything? Yeah.
I had heard it before, and you can let me know if I'm misremembering or whatnot. And then I have one other question, but that sometimes the spiritual master, it will seem that he will concede with the request of the disciple, so that the disciple doesn't get that reaction for not following.
Yeah. Yeah, that's different. Oh, yeah, good example. Yeah, the divorce thing. Srila Prabhupada, I don't know what the word is. I won't even say tolerated. In one sense, he didn't tolerate, but in one sense, he did tolerate divorce among his disciples. He didn't tell his disciples, for instance, not to get divorced. Although he was very clearly against divorce, he tolerated amongst his disciples because otherwise it would, it would spell ruination for them if they were if they just disobeyed his order like that. And therefore, he decided from then on, one of the reasons he decided is to no longer sanction marriages personally, no longer bless marriages like that. So yeah, that's there, the spiritual master. He won't if somebody can't take the order, he won't order somebody. He may order somebody who has the capacity to do it, just like Srila Prabhupada ordered Harikrish Maharaj to go to Russia because he had the capacity, or he thought he had the capacity. But somebody, new bhakta off the street, for example, he won't do the same like that. So.
And then my question was about, so I'm reading right now about the departure of the Yadu dynasty. And so when the demigods are offering their prayers, I don't think it's Lord Brahma, I forget, but when the demigods begin, they're thanking Krishna for fulfilling their desire of coming down and doing everything that they asked of him. I just thought it was interesting because you see them and then in the end of that prayer they say okay, now you can, return back to your abode, and then, but you see then Uddhava, as soon as he hears that Krishna might be leaving, he's completely distraught. So I thought is it proper to the way is there anything that says that like I can understand it as in like the demigods, you know, they aren't on that same platform of pure devotional service that Uddhava is. So their request for Krishna to like, you know, return back to their abode is kind of symbolic of them not being on that same platform. Because Uddhava is
is material. They wanted Krishna to descend. Why? Not necessarily because they only wanted Krishna's association. They wanted Krishna's association because they knew that Krishna could kill the demons. Otherwise, it's like, you know, they may worship Krishna like that, but the devotees, they're always in, we see when Krishna left the planet, the devotees wanted to go with him, and they did go with him. The demigods, they just went back to their respective abodes. For example, the devotees couldn't tolerate the separation, but the demigods, they just went back, carried on the universal affairs like that. He was speaking specifically demigods. Advaita Acharya did ask Lord Chaitanya to leave.
Symbolic of his not being a pure devotee of Lord.
Yeah, it's not in and of itself. There's no other instance I know of other than Advaita Acharya asking somebody to leave that I know offhand. But specifically with the demigods, it's in and of itself is not symbolic, but from taking the other behavior of the demigods, we can understand like that. So, okay, is there anything else? Okay, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.